When preparation meets hard work, that is where success lies. Here's the thing, I'm adding new things. You see the ticker at the bottom of the screen. This is real news. We might as well just get the party started because week 5 of the NFL, it's like, and I don't know if it's just because I'm like taking the podcast more seriously. I'm taking the show like more seriously with the live stream. I don't know if it's that makes me think that this season's like more entertaining than past seasons, but there's like the drama that is going on. I mean, we see the concussion stuff going on, and we'll trust me, we'll get into that later. But we also see like referees throwing games, it seems like consistently with a very specific penalty, which we'll get in later. But it just seems like there's like so much entertainment happening this season that like didn't happen in past seasons. And maybe it's because I'm paying attention more, but I don't know. I've been paying attention since I was a little kid. So for me, in this time, in this season, it's one of the most entertaining. Like, not necessarily, I mean, there's some good football being played, but it's not even about the football. It's also about just the buzz and the drama, and there's a lot going on in the league. I mean, I understand this is a fantasy podcast, I get it, but sometimes we're going to talk about life too. 7:59, it's about 8 p.m. I think that is just a perfect transition to get into the meat and potatoes, so to say. And if you're not eating meat, dude, you got to eat some meat, man. It's for your health. It's for your well-being. Potatoes, that's pleasure. Potatoes, a loaded baked potato, butter, sour cream, bacon, and chives. That is just pleasure. That's all that is. There's nothing healthy about it. All right, guys. I already went into this, but week 5 was crazy. There's plenty of news, plenty of things that happened. We had the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'll tell you something about Brandon Staley. He's on the hot seat. I'm a Chargers fan. You can see I got a Padres jersey on. They're playing the Dodgers tonight. It's a tough matchup, okay? But the Chargers, Staley, I've been protecting you. I've been supporting you. But man, that was a tough decision on 4th down to go for it. Man, that shows you're not really trusting your defense, okay? Other than the Chargers, though, we saw the Chiefs and the Raiders have some sort of clash of the Titans. Josh Jacobs looked like a straight-up demigod. He looked like Percy Jackson in the novels, bro. And I don't think it's going to last. I'll be the first one to say it. I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to be a 30-point running back like indefinitely. We've seen the injury concerns. I'm honestly trying to find a group to play D&D. Dungeons and Dragons, bro? What is this, Stranger Things, the 5th season, dude? What do you think? We need to fight a Demogorgon in the backyard, bro? Let's stick to the basics, okay? Let's stick to Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption, dude. Let's stick to the basics, bro. Come on. Yeah, Dungeons and look at dude. Null Dog's like, yo, I don't even know what that is. Like, dude, like you can't just drop DMD as if it's like saying it's SNL, like it's some sort of acronym that everybody's gonna understand, bro. You can't just drop that, dude. Foremost, let's get to the injury report because this is an informational show, and I think that it would be just wrong of me to not go over injuries that happen in the league, because who knows, maybe someone watching needs to pick up a streamer next week and they don't even know it because they don't even watch football. Man, I'm here for everybody. I'm here for every kind of fan. So let's get on to the injury report. I know the font may be small. I know that it's hard to potentially read, but that is why I am also going to read, because I'm going to let you guys know. All right. And the chat disappeared, but what I can do is do that, and the chat is back. I'm a producer. Dude, this is what I do. I create a show, and I'm just going to keep adding features. I'm going to keep doing the thing. You can see I have a dedicated chat area now. You know, that's the direction I'm going in. It's going to be dedicated chat area. Stream looks lit, very perfect. Hey, thank you, dude. I actually put a lot of work into this particular stream because I found that prior streams I was just kind of like throwing stuff up and talking, and like I personally felt like it wasn't like a professional look. And I think now it's like, dude, if I'm going to do this, you know, it goes back to the whole thing. If you're going to play a game, you want to do well in it, right? So this is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make it look good. On to the injury report, okay? Damian Harris, who's on my team. By the way, Michael, I appreciate that comment, bro. And I agree. It has been a journey, but I mean, like, you just got to keep going on it. You know, keep it happening. Damian Harris, hamstring injury. The extent of the injury is still unknown, but from what the estimations are, it's going to be a couple weeks to a few weeks. Basically, what that means is Damian Harris might end up on the IR. So if you have Ramondre Stevenson, you're rejoicing to the heavens. Okay, if you have Damian Harris, if Damian Harris was your RB2 heading into week 6, you're trying to find another option. And that's what I'm doing. You're just trying to find another option. So that's number one, Rashad Penny. And we all knew, come on, guys, we all knew this was happening. We all knew that Rashad Penny was going to get hurt and that Kenneth Walker was going to be the guy. I mean, we knew that. What can I expect to get in return for Deontay Johnson and Travis Etienne? You know what? Here's the thing about that. Both of those players are trending upwards. Okay? And take it from somebody that has James Robinson. I started James Robinson the past 2 weeks. I think he still, in those 2 weeks combined, had less than 10 fantasy points. Etienne, on example, Etienne has been all of a sudden the premier back in Jacksonville. So I don't, and you know what? It may change. It may flip-flop. But right now, Etienne, like, he's at a high point that you could sell him. You could really sell that factor. Deontay Johnson, same way, new quarterback, who I think Pickett will get better. I talked some trash on the Steelers, but not really. I want Pickett to do well. And I think Deontay's numbers go up once, like, Pickett figures it out. But yeah, and also I appreciate you guys in the chat trying to also help out Poet. We're trying, dude. This is a community of people that help each other out, and you guys are great for helping the question out. But anyways, back to Rashad Penny. We all knew he was going to get hurt. I think it was either Patrick or Mark in my league, that traded for Walker early in the season. And if you look back on it and say that Rashad Penny had a fully healthy season, it would have been a terrible trade. But in hindsight, that dude is number one off the waiver wires if you are in a 10-person league or less. If you're in a 12 or 14-person league, you're not getting Rashad Penny. He's been picked up. Take my word for it. Any update on Jonathan Taylor? Not sure. I don't know. I would need to look at the report. This report right here is like literally week 5 injuries that happened week 5. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, like, if someone needs to stream something, I'm trying to provide them with that information. I'm trying to do a 2v1 type of trade, make room for Rashad White in case my guy Fournette gets injured, which is a totally possible outcome. And I actually really like Lenny, but he is a little older, and I think the Buccaneers are going to have to rely on, like, having a good run game based on, like, the holes in their offense, that we can see. But I think that, like, that's not a bad idea to do that. Baker Mayfield. So apparently he was seen, and there was 2 players. It's Baker Mayfield and Tyreek Hill. They were both seen with an ankle brace or a walking boot after the game. Baker, they're estimating like a couple weeks, but like ankle injuries are tough, so we don't know exactly. Tyreek Hill was asked about the ankle boot, and he's like, I'm fine. So like that's why to me I think like Tyreek's day to day, like he specifically said he's fine. So I think he may miss like 1 week, but probably will play. Um, James Conner. James Conner. He's got ribs. We're seeing a lot of the ribs going on in the league now. Who knows? It really depends on if it's a cartilage injury or a bone injury. The only reason why I know anything about rib injuries is because my boy Justin Herbert got hurt. So I started researching what's the difference. And a bone injury, they don't want him playing because potentially the broken bone could puncture the lung, becoming a much bigger issue. Just ask Tyrod Taylor, okay? But if it's cartilage, it's a soft injury as far as like the actual, like the lungs are concerned. So there's not the same risk. So they let people with the cartilage injuries play more often. RB or wide receiver, Hurts, put either of those guys in on the waiver wire and give them for free. Don't put them on the waivers, man. See, there's nothing wrong with throwing trades out. There's nothing wrong with tossing trades out and see if anyone bites. Just ask Michael in our league. I mean, that guy fishes for trades in the shallowest streams. I mean, he doesn't even put bait on his hook. He just throws his hook out and hopes there's a bass that's just aggressive enough to bite it. But enough of that. Enough of that. That's not what this is about. But James Conner's got the ribs. Chris Olave, Olive Garden. Poor guy, man. He has a concussion. It didn't look good either. And he was really like becoming that guy in New Orleans. He's a talented wide receiver. You're going to see a lot of that guy moving forward. But he's out, concussion. Naheem Hines, I started him in my other league in the flex just because it was the 1 week I thought that he would actually get a start. He caught a pass for like 5 yards, gets hit hard, and he was stumbling. He was stumbling like Grayson at a bar in Miami. I mean, this dude was stumbling. Shout out G-Stap, though. Shout out G-Stap. Teddy Bridgewater, another concussion. And trust me, we're going to get into concussions later. Like, I have statistics here that I'm going to go over, but the concussions are becoming even more of a problem, which seems like there's more rules now, but it seems like they're becoming a bit of an issue. Soldier pants that night, dude. We can talk about that later. You crazy dude. You are just crazy. T. Higgins, ankle, day to day. If I have Tyler Boyd, I'm a little excited because Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase hasn't necessarily been producing like Jamar Chase does, so they might spread the love a little bit. They might give Tyler Boyd a little bit of cheddar to go on top of that roasted quesadilla. You know what I'm saying, dude? We already talked about Tyreek. He had the boot on, and he said he was fine, so I consider him day-to-day. Russell Wilson, by the way, now, Russell Wilson, everybody knows that I have certain feelings about Russell Wilson, and I will say I do like the guy. I think he's a good guy, but he mentioned in a post-game interview, obviously the Broncos had an embarrassing defeat, but he mentioned his shoulder being an issue. And interestingly enough, based on the data that I've gotten from ESPN, it is actually a partially torn latissimus dorsi, okay, commonly called the lat. But it's a partially torn lat, like right at the top of the lat. Like right at the top, kind of where the shoulder blade is. And I think that's why they thought it was a shoulder injury, but they do know it is a latissimus dorsi injury, and he's going to play through it from all the reports. They say he's going to play through it, but I just think it's an excuse at this point as to why he isn't like performing, dude. And who knows, maybe it does hurt, I don't want to be like a bad guy, but it's mighty convenient that he has some injury when he's doing so poorly. And he might have one. I did say, you know what? Actually, I didn't say specifically that he had autism. I didn't say that specifically. I said that he was on the spectrum. And that could mean a lot of different things. And maybe people just instantly think, okay, that, and I get it. You know, autism, the spectrum, they go hand in hand. Okay, it's like Dairy Queen and Wiener Schnitzel. You know, they might just be close hand in hand, okay? But that doesn't mean that I said he was necessarily autistic. I said he was on the spectrum. And I think that a psychologist, I think that a neurosurgeon, I think a common human being that watches that Mr. Unlimited video and says that there isn't something going on clinically in that man's head, I'm not trying to be some sort of like oracle, but I'm just saying, I'm pointing out the facts. I mean, that dude, there's something going on mentally. It could be the pressure. It could be the high altitude of the Denver, the mountains. You know, he might be suffering from lack of oxygen. I don't know. Okay, I'm not here to point out, inconsistencies here. But first, waiver wire, you guys. Waiver wire Wednesdays tomorrow, so you better understand that you got to have your waiver wire figured out. I want you guys to understand that I base my waiver wire picks on deeper leagues because I'm in a 14-man league. If you're in an 8 or a 10-man league, there's better players to pick up than this. So I would just recommend going on to your football portal on the ESPN app and just look at the waivers, because we're looking at Kenneth Walker as the number one suspect if it's an 8 or 10-man league. I mean, he needs to get picked up in every single league across the board. Eno Benjamin, we mentioned James Conner with the rib injury earlier. Eno Benjamin is going to be the guy that is going to fill in. He got a touchdown. He looked good. His name's Eno. I like it. He's rostered in 6.8% of leagues, so he's widely available. But if you're in a 14-man league like I am, he isn't. But in a 12-man league, he will probably be available. Pierre Strong Jr., 0.2% rostered in leagues. We mentioned Damian Harris with the hamstring injury. Pierre Strong Jr. was the only running back. I think he was like a fourth round. He's a rookie. I think he was like a 4th or 5th round pick, I believe, for the Patriots. But he was the only guy that was actually on the active roster with, he was a healthy scratch, so he didn't play, but he was on the roster. So if you look at reports right now, they're talking about J.J. Taylor coming up. They're talking about, I think there's another dude, Harris, coming up off the practice squad. He was actually the only guy on the active roster. That's Pierre Strong Jr. So knowing Belichick, knowing that like organization, they're going to go with consistency and who's been practicing with the first stringers, second stringers, third stringers. And that guy's Pierre Strong. So definitely something to look at. He's widely available. I mean, he was getting 0 points before maybe week 6. Tevin Coleman, 0% rostered. And I don't know if you guys watched the 49ers game. Hell of a game to watch if you're a 49ers fan. But Tevin Coleman was doing it all. He showed explosiveness running the ball. And there was this one catch where, and Tevin Coleman isn't a tall guy. He isn't a Megatron, player, build. He's a running back, but he leaped up and grabbed this ball. And I thought he needs to be low-key almost taking Brandon Ayuk's spot at wide receiver. Like, this dude definitely is going to get some more playing time. And I know Eli Mitchell is on the IR, and he's coming back probably within a month. And Jeff Wilson Jr. has the, lion's share, let's say, of touches in that offense. You're going to see Tevin Coleman get opportunities because of that game. I think he had like 21 fantasy points. I mean, this dude was like in the top 5 of running backs. I believe, I could be wrong, but I think he was. I mean, this dude was like straight up balling. Mike Boone, Mike Boone, like this guy's a little bit more rostered, but he's essentially going to now be a part of the two-headed dragon that is going to be the Denver Broncos backfield. And I'll tell you what, Melvin Gordon has had some issues holding on to the ball, and it's nothing new. I mean, they were talking, I'm a Chargers fan, okay? They were talking about the Melvin Gordon's problems handling the football and fumbling since he was drafted. So I can tell you that that isn't just a fluke. I mean, he has issues with the ball. And I think Boone looked good. He looked better than Melvin Gordon, in my opinion, in that game. I think he starts filling in for Javonte, who is now on the IR, but he's going to start being like the 1-2 back. Like I'm not going to say he's going to be number one because they paid too much for Melvin Gordon to have him number two to Mike Boone. But he's going to be involved. He's going to be involved. Rondale Moore, Cardinals wide receiver, yada, 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 20% of leagues. It's like that's more for the people in like a 12, 10-man league. He's probably going to get a little bit more looks. You do have to keep in mind Hopkins is coming back, and Hollywood Brown is still going to be his college buddy. So Hollywood Brown's still going to get his looks. Trust me, you don't go from 11, 12 targets a game to 4, especially with the chemistry. You just don't do it. Devin Duvernay, Ravens, wide receiver, 25% rostered. Once again, if you're in a 10 or 12-man league, probably a good idea to go see if he's available. He had a decent game, and what I liked was that he capitalized with his opportunities. He actually looked good, and that's something you need to look at how they looked in the game. You can't just say oh, they got these targets, these stats. Like Tevin Coleman, for example, that dude looked really good. So it's easy to see as a coach, our number one running back is injured in Eli Mitchell, where Jeff Wilson's been doing a hell of a job, but Tevin Coleman's now that guy. He's number 2. Okay, he's now he really posterized that defense, and I think even when Eli comes back, he's getting looks. PJ Walker, he's going to be the fill-in for Baker Mayfield. He's obviously not rostered in any leagues. No surprise. I would still stay away from him unless you're in a 14 to 16 to 18 man league. I mean, I don't think he's somehow going to be better than Baker, and Baker's been terrible. So just an idea for really deep leagues. PJ's going to fill in for Baker. On that same token, we've got Skylar Thompson. Going to be filling in for Teddy Bridgewater. And by the way, concussions seem to be plaguing the Miami Dolphins like the AIDS epidemic in America during the Magic Johnson time. I mean, everybody got AIDS, and it seems like that team has to train better on how not to get a concussion to these quarterbacks because they're now on Skylar Thompson. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is a hell of a backup, but he's also concussed. So him and Tua got sunglasses on. They're talking to team trainers with ice bags on their head because their head feels like it's splitting due to pressure and an obvious trauma that is happening inside of the skull. Okay, so that's it for the waiver wire. Sam Darnold, low key, I think put in Sam Darnold. But he's also injured, and I don't even think he's ready to come back yet. So they are on Skylar Thompson. I do believe he's still injured, and I think Skylar Thompson will be the starting quarterback for the Panthers in Week 6. Now, I talked about the waiver wire. I talked about injuries. Now it's just Week 5, you guys. Week 5 was pretty nuts. Okay, I mean, and we saw the penalties. And that's the first thing I want to mention is the penalties. Because the roughing the passer penalties have been an issue since last week. Funny enough, the same ref last week it was the Bills-the Ravens game that called a roughing the passer. It's the same referee that made the call with Tom Brady and Grady Jarrett. Okay? It's the same guy. Someone's got to look at this guy's bank account. Someone's got to investigate this, because if I was a betting man and I was a referee and I didn't have any honor, I might just make those calls. Because both instances, I mean, with Grady Jarrett and Tom Brady, okay, Grady Jarrett, DN for the Falcons, Tom Brady, obviously the GOAT. Obviously, you have to take hand in hand that they are going to try to protect Tom Brady at all costs. Granted, that obviously is true. However, Grady Jarrett literally looked like he was giving it up. I mean, he did a roll, he did the alligator roll, but he didn't throw him. He did not suplex him. He did not bury his helmet into the ground from the top. He didn't do that. He was very polite, and they called it. And that was late in the fourth quarter, critical first down. And you see the Buccaneers go on to win that game against the Falcons. And here's the thing. If I'm a Falcons fan, if I'm the Falcons coaching staff, if I'm a player on the Atlanta Falcons, that was your opportunity to beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. No one thought you would do it. You could have done it. And that's why it's more upsetting, is because that was like a game for an underdog that would really appreciate a win against that team. And that's why it's a little bit more venomous. You know, that particular instance is a little bit more venomous. But even, I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, or forgive me, if you're a Chiefs fan, another roughing the passer call last night, Chris Jones, Derek Carr, I believe it was late in the second quarter, probably about a 3rd and 8. Chris Jones makes an amazing effort, sacks the quarterback, strips the ball, recovers the fumble, and they call roughing the passer. Chris Jones in the post-game interview was very professional about it, but a direct quote, and this is a direct quote from him, he said, "I'm 320 pounds, I'm running full speed at the quarterback, what do you want me to do?" He did everything that man physically could, and I believe it. I believe it. And I know everybody's heard everything that there has to be said about Matt Rule. He got fired, which with the Panthers' performance is not surprising. You know, they went out and got Baker Mayfield. And I don't even blame Matt Rule for Baker Mayfield. I've been saying from the beginning that Baker Mayfield isn't going to be I'm not even saying elite quarterback. I'm saying like a Carson Wentz, you know, Kirk Cousins. Like, he's not even going to be those guys, at least at this point. He can prove me wrong or something, but he hasn't shown at any point in his career that he could even be a top 15 quarterback. He hasn't shown that. He has not shown that. But regardless, Matt Rule got fired. He was 3 years into a 7-year contract, and he is owed $40 million still. So if I'm Matt Rule, I'm going to Turks and Tobago. I am getting a chair out on the beach and perhaps ordering a pina colada. That's what I'm doing if I'm that guy. But defensive coordinator, I believe his name was something Snow, Phil Snow, he was also let go, which is funny because the defense actually wasn't doing that bad. All things considered, you know, they weren't doing that bad. Ron Rivera shit on Wentz. Yeah, dude. Did you guys see that? Ron Rivera, like, when asked about the difference between teams that are like mid and teams that like are perennial champions along those lines, he essentially threw Carson Wentz under the boat and was like, yeah, it's a quarterback. If you can have a good quarterback, you can win games. Like, which is funny because his coaching hasn't been necessarily the best. You know, that his ideas, his coaching staff, they've been under scrutiny this season as well. Okay, you're 1-4. Accept responsibility. Accept responsibility. And you know what? He could take a lesson from Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions. Last season, Dan Campbell was in tears just talking about how much he loved his players, how much he loved the organization, how much that he loved these players and that he wanted them to succeed. And he took responsibility for L's. And like that shit, like, take responsibility. Pull the clip up. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I want to see that. All right, I'll pull the clip up.
Following up on John's question about the Giants, they're up to a faster start. The Eagles, the Cowboys, they've kind of all been rebuilding too the last couple of years, and it seems like they're farther ahead. Why do you think the teams in the division are farther ahead at this point?
Quarterback.
Is that? I mean, with quarterback, like the Cowboys, for instance, they don't have Dak Prescott this season and still have been able to
Well,
win.
they started with
him,
Dak,
but
and they build around Dak, and the offense is built around Dak. Their backup's a guy that is very solid inside of what they do. And the truth is that this is a quarterback-driven league. And if you look at the teams that have been able to sustain success, they've been able to build it around a specific quarterback.
Chose the quarterback here, though. So do you have any regrets about that, or how do you?
No, I got no regrets about their quarterback. I think our quarterback has done some good things. There's been a couple of games that he struggled. But you look at his numbers from yesterday, and you would say, okay, look at his numbers he's had throughout the year. There was a time he was, very solid. And then, we had the unfortunate Philadelphia game, and he struggled a little bit in the Dallas game. But the way he performed yesterday, it just shows you what he's capable of. And, we chose him because we believe him. We chose him because we looked at what we felt were things that pointed towards him.
Wow. So, say what you want about Brandon Staley. Say what you want about his decisions, and he's made, honestly, some super questionable decisions. But Brandon Staley wouldn't do that shit. And, being a head coach is more than calling plays. You're the figurehead of a franchise. I can take these out now because I don't need them. But you're supposed to be the guy that goes to the media, and it's the same thing about presidents. It's the same thing about CEOs. It's the same thing. But you're supposed to be the guy that goes to the media and shows that it doesn't matter what condition you're in, you're positive about your players, you're positive about what they can do, and you think that there are brighter days ahead. And I'm not even saying that he's wrong. This isn't like people aren't criticizing him because they think that he's wrong necessarily, because I think there's a lot of truth about what he said. But you don't say it to the media, man. You don't make it a headline. You know what I typed in? I believe it was Rivera criticizes Wentz about the team's success or something like that. You don't want people searching that up, okay? You don't want people searching up a post-game interview for a coach unless it's Belichick, because he's just so aloof that it's hilarious, and he's low-key combative that it's hilarious. I'll watch Belichick in the post-game interviews. You don't want people searching up your coach talking about, your quarterback in that way. It's not fair either. I don't think it's fair, dude. There's a lot of problems with that Washington franchise right now. Luckily, they got Brian Robinson back, so, that's something to be happy about. But you don't blame it all on Wentz. You can't. You can't do that, especially when there's been some seriously questionable calls on their part. Clock management, just overall game management. I mean, what do you want, Carson Wentz to do your job for you? Concussions, dude. Concussions have been a problem in the NFL lately, it seems, and to the point where, and I get it, concussions have been going on in the league. This isn't something new, but they seem worse now. Based on just my viewership, they seem worse. And what I mean by that is guys genuinely not knowing what team they are on, what play is to be called, confused when they get up after a hit. The reason why a lot of concussions go undiagnosed is sometimes these guys pull it together a little bit. They go, "Oh, dude, I'm shook, but I'm still there." These guys, Naheem Hines, Tua Tagovailoa, Chris Olave, they weren't sentient when they were getting them off the ground. I mean, these seem a little bit more gnarly lately. So it caused me to kind of look into it. And statistically, concussions have been getting better in the NFL. And granted, I'm getting this information directly from NFL.com. Take it what you will, but this is the official numbers and statements from the NFL. The 2017 season, and this is I don't know what year the Will Smith documentary came out, but I'm assuming it was 2015, 2014, maybe 2013, where the movie's called Concussion, and it basically outlines the problems with brain injuries in professional sports. But in 2017, there was 281 recorded concussions in the NFL. 2018, we went down to 214. So from 2017 to 2018, official numbers, we saw about a 60 case decrease in concussions. And I think a lot of that was I think big rule changes happened in the 2017 offseason. I think that's when you couldn't lead with your helmet and stuff. I could be wrong. I didn't necessarily research that, but that's my guess. That's when the attention started really bearing down on the league. 2019, it then increased to 224, which isn't that much of an increase. It's basically status quo. 2020, 172, but there was no preseason games because of COVID, so you can't necessarily, they're the preseason, a lot of those third stringers, fourth stringers, they're getting concussions because they're trying to make a name for themselves. 2021, 187. So basically what the league is saying is concussions are decreasing. Concussions are getting better. This is becoming less of an issue. And I think on some level that's true. But on another level, what happened with Tua, that's going to really raise some eyebrows. And we've already talked about it on this podcast, and on a lot of other podcasts, they talked about it. It's going to raise eyebrows, but not only that, but visually. And here's the thing about America. Americans are visual people. If they don't see the concussions aren't a problem. On the flip side of that coin, when you got Tua throwing up gang signs because he's so fucked up on the field, and people see that and they're watching the game with their little one, kind of a problem now. Chris Olave goes down. He's a promising young player, a rookie. He's doing great things in New Orleans. He gets slammed to the turf, looking a little confused. Nyheim Hines literally looked like he was blackout drunk, getting up after a hit, stumbling around, truly confused. By the way, something hilarious about that is Nyheim Hines is actually slated, at least on fantasy, as questionable and has a projected point total of 8 or 9 PPR points. Guys, Nyheim Hines cannot play next week. Can we stop? Can we stop with dude, can you not learn anything from what's going on right now? This dude is literally stumbling around. Give it a week, if anything, for optics. Give it a week. It's Nyheim Hines. Put Philip Lindsay in there, dude. It's not a big deal. How are you even going to pretend like he's going to play? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But back to my point about Americans being visual. If they see the concussions are a problem. And that's why from 2017 to 2018, I don't know when the movie Concussion came out, but I'm assuming a couple years before that, Americans started to see, hey, this is a problem. concussions are an issue in the league. You think that it hasn't been happening since the late 50s, since the whatever, when NFL was an organization as it was created with leather helmets. You don't think it was an issue back then? They had more people walking around with CTE. People probably blamed it on like PTSD or something. They probably just didn't even know what it was. At that point, everybody fought in wars. Everybody's grandpa went to Vietnam or World War II. You know what I'm saying? It's not the point. But what I'm saying is, the concussions have been going on. The American public is now seeing the concussions go on. And that is why it's now a problem for the NFL. And I think there's going to be some changes. And you know what? There already was a change. Literally going into this week 5, the NFL and the NFL Players Association, they came out with a new rule about the concussion protocol. It's a new rule, and it states that if a player shows ataxia during a contest or a practice or any sort of NFL ordained activity, if a player shows ataxia, which for those of you that don't have a medical degree, ataxia can be defined as Nyheim Hines after that 5-yard catch. A guy that gets up and is so confused, he doesn't know where he is. He starts stumbling around. He starts talking to an opposing player about getting Wendy's after the game. If a player does something like that, for sure, they are forbidden to go back into that contest. Which is, I get it. And it is a big rule. It's a big change because there definitely was players in the past that showed ataxia and got back into the game, and Luke Kuechly comes to mind. But other players for sure, he's just a famous case. But it's a rule, and it's a step in the direction that the NFL wants to go optically. But do I think that that's somehow going to change the concussion situation in the NFL? No. And what I'm here to tell you is I don't think there is anything that is going to change that. And I think people want to, especially as an NFL fan, do I want there to be a solution to this? Of course, because it's not great, especially in today's culture, when the public turns on you. Because when the public turns on you, the sponsorship money goes away, the funding goes away, and you get canceled. Do I think the NFL is going to get canceled? No, at least not yet. But they have a lot to think about going forward, because it seems like the concussions are actually getting worse. They come out with a rule that says Nyheim Hines can't go back. And that's actually an interesting case, because Nyheim Hines was probably the first player in which that rule applied on Thursday Night Football. And he got up, didn't know where the bathroom was. The new rule says he can't go back into the game. Great, good start. But ESPN saying that he's going to get 9 points next week? Dude, I want to hear about the brain specialist that he's visiting on Monday, or for that matter, Friday after the game. I don't want to hear about him getting 9 points next week, Would you watch football if it was two-hand touch? I wouldn't. Of course not. No one would. And that's the thing, is what I'm trying to say is, while there isn't a solution, that also doesn't mean that football's going to go away. People want to believe that the world is just a safe place where nothing bad happens, and we have to do everything in our power to prevent bad things from happening. And I think obviously to a large extent that is true. However, there are some things worth risk. Okay, and that's something that a lot of people need to understand, is risk is not a bad thing necessarily. And the NFL and the teams are risking these players every time they go out onto the field. Everybody knows it. The players sure as hell know it. They've been playing this game their whole life. I played football from 6th grade, Pop Warner, to senior year of high school, and I've gotten 2 procedures on my shoulder on this side. I still need surgery on the shoulder on this side, and I got at least 1 diagnosed concussion where I was showing ataxia. Okay, like for sure there was something going on there. Alcohol is still around. It kills every year. Yeah, but optically, it's the NFL wants to try to pretend like there's some solution, and like granted they always have to pretend like there's a solution. They have to. It's like Matt Rule with Carson Wentz quarterback play. Or not Matt Rule, I apologize, Ron Rivera. You've got to pretend like there isn't a problem with your quarterback. You got to pretend. You got to say, hey, you know, I made some bad calls, blah, blah, blah. I think the NFL's got to do the same thing. I think they got to come out with the, you know what I would like to see? What I would like to see from the NFL and the NFL Players Association, just from the entire situation of these concussions, I would like to see the players get more guaranteed money in their contracts. I think that's the only solution to this problem. You can make rules where they don't hit them with their head. They're not supposed to slam people's heads on the ground. They're not supposed to go helmet to helmet. You can make all the rules you want, but at the end of the day, these guys are gladiators. And you know what the common theme between the gladiators, whether it was Russell Crowe or whether it was anybody else in the Colosseum in Rome, the common theme between them and NFL players is they are given an opportunity to ascend their current situation through their sport. Okay, if you know, some players grow up in areas and in situations where they're trying to ascend that situation. They know the risks. They're playing this willingly. The gladiators going in the Colosseum, they understand that there's lions that might get released, and guess what? The lions get released. It doesn't matter if you're Russell Crowe, you're probably not going to make it. Okay, but nevertheless, you enter the arena. And nothing the NFL can do about rules unless you, like Mike said in the chat, make it flag football. It's not going to work. Concussions are hand in hand with this game. It's like if 2 people were shooting arrows at an apple on top of one another's head as a game, and sometimes the arrow hits them in the eye. Well, that's probably a common side effect of that game. If you want to play it, go ahead. But that's a common side effect. So, NFL, give the players more guaranteed money. Tell them, you know what? I understand the risk you're taking. CTE, we saw it with Junior Seau. Okay, we saw it with his suicide, one of the saddest cases. Okay, we see it with Luke Kuechly. You know, we see it with a lot of, honestly, probably Aaron Hernandez. Okay, see it with a lot of guys. But with the research with CTE, you got to say, look at these past cases. These are the guys that you watched when you were a kid. They were your role models. They commit suicide. They go on crazy murder sprees, whatever. They end up with a condition that causes them to literally go insane. Sign the dotted line. Here's an extra $10 million per year guaranteed for your troubles. Because guess what? You're probably going to need to go find some stem cells in Panama to fix whatever CTE we're about to give you. That's my point. Give them more money. Guaranteed money. I mean, try your best to make rules, but come on. There's got to be a way to design a safer helmet. We have men about to go to Mars. There's got to be a way. Here's the problem with the helmets, dude. And there was actually a lot of theory that helmets actually contribute to more concussions. And I looked into it. That's actually not necessarily true, because rugby, there was a study in like 2018 where they kind of compared head trauma in different sports. And for men over 18, for both the NFL and the Professional Rugby Association, whatever that's called, there was actually like a 1 player increase per 1,000 players that would get diagnosed with a concussion in any given game. So I don't think that like removing, because a lot of people say like remove the helmets, then they can't lead with their head. People are still getting concussions in rugby. Okay, dude, we're slamming people to the ground. Okay, that whiplash motion where a head hits the floor, that's probably a lot worse than a head-to-head contact with helmets on. Because the whiplash, dude, the whole point of a concussion is your brain rattles against the sides of your skull. Like there's enough of that torque and motion to where your brain just like wiggles. And there's a lot of like obvious problems because your brain isn't supposed to just be bouncing around your skull. Okay? That's not what it's meant to do. So I say give the players more money. Don't take away the helmets. Say this is the risk, and as an organization in today's world, you got to be so transparent about risk, whether you're an employer or whether you are a owner of a National Football League team. You have to say, look, you might get hurt, but guess what? Look at the pros, look at the cons. Here's your contract. What do you want to do? And you know what? Maybe when more research comes out, more things get revealed, maybe some players stop. Maybe some players say, nah. Maybe players in high school, maybe freshman year of high school, they're thinking about a after-school activity, maybe a sport, and they think about playing football. Maybe they might, play badminton or tennis. More power to them. Maybe football declines in popularity, sure, but at least it would be a genuine sport with genuine fan base and a genuine organization that is just transparent about, hey, this isn't just for everybody. This is the kind of sport to where, there's a reason why we love it so much. Like the risk, it's the same reason why people love watching guys fight and women fight. They like watching the UFC. They like seeing humans that train as their profession to overcome physical obstacles against other humans. People eat it up, and it's not going away. So just be transparent. Pay them more money. There's plenty of money going around in the NFL. Okay, there's plenty, and I see it with like the ad revenue and brought to you by the NFL. It's like, you know what, dude? Like, give your players more money. Give your players more money. Give them stock shares. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dreamer. Maybe I'm, naive. But I think that's the only solution because it's not going away. People are going to get concussions. And I think if you try to hide that, you're just lying. And I think you're just not being genuine. You're not truly understanding the situation. The owners aren't going to want to do that at the end of the day. Every time an NFL football game gets aired on TV, it is a massive financial situation. We're talking about networks. We're talking about people that are employed as cameramen, like the guy who got decked by Devontae Adams. But this is a massive financial situation. And if you think they just want to have less games, I think it would be more of a financial detriment to the organizations than just giving their players a hell of a lot more money. You know what I mean? And then money talks. So like if they do a spreadsheet, if they do like a forecast, a financial forecast, and they say, hey, it's actually going to be less money for us to give our players millions of more dollars than maybe shortening the season a couple games. Great. Win-win, in my opinion. Risk is there. The risk is there. Also, get rid of turf. They need grass. Seeing players tear their... Yeah. I believe it was it Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham? I think it was Odell Beckham Jr. that was talking about the turf. About just like, guys, you know how much money is in like what I'm saying about money, like he actually made the point, like get grass. And I think there's definitely something to that. I think they can totally afford grass. If these golf courses, dude, if I go to a golf course in which I pay $100 to get on the course and it has like decent green grass, I think that the NFL can do it as well. Yeah, no, it's money, man. I mean, look at, dude, The fact that Amazon acquired Thursday Night Football, Jeff Bezos has plenty of money. And I'd love to look into that deal, how much he paid to get those rights. But this dude's dropping $80 million an episode on Lord of the Rings, which, spoiler, isn't like living up to the hype. Okay, so money isn't an issue. This guy Jeff Bezos, he's coming off the divorce. He's just trying to throw money everywhere, and the NFL got a piece of it. But that's just goes to my point. The money it's gonna talk. So it's just a cost-benefit analysis at that point. Pull up Olave's touchdown and concussion. Okay, I'm down to do that. First, I do want to mention one thing that I actually didn't mention before, but it goes to the whole point with the concussions and the optics and the whole situation of like when a certain problem becomes seen, that's when it becomes a problem. You know what I mean? In the sense of the society. If we looked at COVID, okay, and I'm taking numbers directly, CDC numbers, at its peak in 2020, 6.5% of the U.S. COVID cases were hospitalized. And so that it means that they were relatively serious, 6.5% of the cases, right? So there was a total of 1,696 players on the active NFL rosters in 2021. So COVID 2021, 6.5% of the cases were hospitalized. In 2021 in the NFL, and if we go back to those numbers of actually how many guys were diagnosed, in 2021 it was 187. And I think we're trending up from that number as far as this season is concerned. But that means 11% of active NFL rosters had diagnosed concussions. And that's pretty serious, dude. And that means, and it just speaks to the point of like a trend of just these like 11% having substantial brain injuries. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, if 6.5% of COVID cases being hospitalized shut the economy down and like was a huge like national scene. And I'm not trying to compare people who die from COVID or people that have like severe, like, long term problems from COVID. I'm not trying to compare that to like just getting a concussion. But what I'm trying to say is like concussions aren't just something to just like, oh, it's just a concussion. I mean, these are serious. And I think we're going to really learn in future years like just how serious it really is. But if 11% of the active rosters get concussions, and guess what? Those almost 1,700 players that are on active rosters, not a lot of them play in games. It's actually probably a few of them, percentage-wise, that actually see playing time, you guys. So that 11% number is actually a really low in ratio estimate, if that makes any sense. Because if you actually took the guys who played, in games, then you would get probably a much larger percentage of guys that get concussions. And those are just diagnosed. Who knows in practice? Who knows when the cameras aren't on? Who gets a concussion? If the practice squad player gets a concussion in week 8 and no camera sees it, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, did the tree fall? That's the whole point I'm trying to make about this whole thing. Like, you know what I mean? But that's all that little snippet, the like COVID thing, that was the last thing that I thought was fascinating as far as like a little comparison. Because it is all about optics. And like once people realize COVID's happening and people are dying, then it becomes this thing. And once people really realize what concussions are doing in the NFL, it's going to really become a thing. You saw it in the Bible in Genesis with Cain and Abel. But sometimes brothers, sometimes hermanos come head to head. And that is what is happening in week 6 of the Squancho's Fantasy Football League. Hermanos, it's just 2 brothers, and we're going head to head. Let's see what happens. He knocked me out the playoffs last year. Okay, this guy, he's got freaky teams. But we're coming head to head on it. And I hope the world's ready for it because it's Clash of the Titans out here. Here we go. This is Chris Olave's touchdown. Let me go ahead and turn it on HD so we can try to get the best quality we can. But this is his concussion touchdown. So we can go ahead and take a look.
Dalton needs 9 yards here. Instead, he says, how about a touchdown? Has it broken up a lot.
Look at him.
Jostling with Bryant, and now Olave maybe in a little bit of pain.
That's a great throw. Great decision. The ball's where it had to be. Olave did not complete the catch, it appears, when he was thrown down.
And everybody
See,
holding
Harris
their
putting
breath.
pressure on there. Ball's to the outside. He does a great job. Ooh, I don't know about that. He has to complete it to the ground, and that's when it came out.
And he's still in some pain. They're tending to him.
So he has that. There's 2 steps, and then he throws him. And you could say that the ball.
That's not good.
The ball.
That's not good. Let's look at Nyheim Hines, you guys. Let's look at now. Like, you want to see another one? This one, honestly, visually is worse. I don't think it's a worse concussion, but I think optically it was worse for the fans. Let's look at Nyheim Hines concussion.
And 7.
Okay, full screen. Producer, display capture. All right, Nyheim Hines concussion. It was not great.
And 7. Ryan hangs in the pocket, throws, and has to move up toward the line of scrimmage. The catch is made, but they don't get a first down. Hines about 1.5 yards short, and once again, Indianapolis cannot score off its first drive. They haven't scored a single point over first drive this season. And of all things.
Of all things, right, Boomer? God,
Well,
of all
we've seen
things.
stumbling, and you know what I'm talking about. Hines needs some help to just remain upright.
Did you see what he said right there? He goes, you know what I'm talking about. He says, we've seen some stumbling. He's like, he didn't even want to say it on live TV. What that means is, concussions are an issue right now, specifically within the past few weeks. 21 players, by the way, thing I didn't even mention, there's 21 players with concussions on active rosters on the injury report in week 5. That's just week 5. 21. Let's look at the rest of this. If it'll load.
Trying to make something happen. I think he got hit from behind. Right there was the contact that knocked him down, and you could see the reaction that he had after that hit.
Sure did. Right, there it is. Oh, man.
Just hate to see.
Let's
that hit.
Sure did. Right, there it is. Oh, man.
Just hate to see.
That's insane. That is like, and I don't even need to show the 201 because everybody and their mother has seen the 201. But those ones were week 5 instances. Okay, this is just this past week of football. Nyheim Hines, Olave, those were the poster childs of the concussions. You know what? I do want to look at the roughing the passer calls because we were looking at other things, and I think it would be a good thing to look at those. All right.
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Number 92, defense. 15 yards will be added to the end of the play. First down.
Well, Bowser's miss is even bigger because instead of it even being just an incomplete pass, the rookie Matabike is right there, and he is going to go for a soccer award.
Oh, he sold it, baby.
Oh, man.
Best supporting actor.
Flopsky.
Flopsky. Yeah, Flopsky. So here's the difference between that call and that particular game. The only reason why I bring that up is because it's the same referee that then made the call that was actually a really game-altering call the following week. He did it in week 4 with Josh Allen. And, sorry, the YouTube is playing. That's why you hire a producer, you know? But the difference is that was in the first quarter. Sure, it was not a great thing that happened as far as like altering the game. Any penalty alters the game. But check out this one. Same referee, same bad call, but this time it's late in the fourth quarter. Tom Brady, Falcons, Jarrett Everett. I think that's his name. I honestly could be wrong, but let's check it out.
Take down Detroit. Tom Brady on third down. Scans the field and gets sacked. Brady Jarrett brings him down.
And he's rolling through the tackle.
Defense, number 97.
He's going to be down onto the hips of Tom Brady while he's in pursuit, so he's spinning around too. There's been a couple of calls here in this situation for Atlanta to hold on. I feel it, Coach.
That is bad at any stage.
That is actually terrible. In my opinion, that was the worst one. That one was the worst because it's the Falcons, it's the Buccaneers, it's a team that had no business winning the game, a big underdog in the matchup, and they had a chance, and the refs stole it from them because that was terrible. Like, that was the worst one because the thing is with the one with Josh Allen, like, he kind of shoved him a little bit, and, like, he definitely knew. And the whole reason why he pulled his hands back like this is because he know he did a no-no. He did a no-no. He, like, threw his hands a little bit when he knew that the quarterback threw the ball. And that's why he put his hands up like, hey, I didn't do anything. Do I think it should have been called? Absolutely not. But there's more cause for that one being called than the one we just watched. I mean, he did like a textbook protect the quarterback sack. He could have done way worse, dude. He could have done Chris Jones, 320 pounds of absolute athletic mass that just wants to tear the quarterback apart. He could have put him in a body bag. But he didn't. He didn't. The Kansas City one was bad as well. You guys want to take a look at that one? Let's look at that one. I think this is about to be like in shorts, in like shorts format, so it's not going to be widescreen, but let's take a look.
I got the blick in my side. She learned to be when I drop. Oh, the whoopie, that's I got the blick in my side. She learned to be when I drop. Oh, the whoopie, that's I got the blick in my side. She learned to be when I drop.
They have some funky music or something. But he just tackles him. It's like almost like they're trying to do it. It's like the league is like trying, and maybe it's the does it correlate to the concussion thing? There's been concussions going on. Protect the cash cows, protect the quarterback, throw flags. Maybe it's not the ref's fault at all. Maybe the NFL as an organization told these refs to be a little trigger happy with the yellow mustard flag when a quarterback gets hit, because it sure's been happening a lot. You know? That one is more okay, though, the body weight rule. And it goes back to Chris Jones's quote. I'm a 320-pound man that is being asked to run full speed and tackle a quarterback. That is my job. That is why I'm being paid millions of dollars. How is a 320-pound man that's making a tackle, how is he not going to put body weight on a guy? I mean, I still don't think it's as bad as a call as the Tom Brady one, but I still think it's a terrible call. You know, I think Chris Jones literally was like, dude, I went into that play, like that tackle, knowing the rules and made a decision that he could have been way rougher on that. He could have really gave that body weight, and Tom Brady probably would have been in a stretcher. Brian, can you watch LSU wide receiver Lou Shunk's tape? I think he's the next Megatron. Okay. Just because you asked. Was that a joke? Is that a real dude? I'm not getting anything on that, bro. Oh, wait. I'm getting Keyshawn Buett. I'm getting Keyshawn Buett. You guys, either he's just so obscure that he's not on YouTube, or I'm getting punked right now. Jeez, Mike, trying to get me banned already, bro. Yeah, dude, I can't find it, you guys. Could be wrong. I could be, like, you guys, I'll bring it up if you don't believe me. Lou Skunt, LSU wide receiver highlights. I'm getting, like, Keyshawn Buett highlights. Just normal LSU highlights. Georgia highlights from the LSU game in 2018. Good Lord, he must really not exist. If they're giving highlights from a 2018 game, I mean, I'm sure it was a great game, but come on. Dude, misspelled it. I've spelled it every single way that you guys have offered it. I said Sweet Lou. I literally put in Sweet Lou as well. I'm like, dude, it would have came up. Like, look, he's probably real. I don't watch college football, so I'm not the one to be like, the wizard on this, but I'm just saying, I'm looking it up and I don't see it. Okay. Grayson's calling me. I'm literally about to just, I'm making it way harder. How am I making it harder on myself? I'm looking it up. Yo.
Yeah, Brian. So look back at that name and then just read it aloud.
Lou Skunt. Oh my God.
A little faster.
Yeah, no, and you know what's, Michael was actually trying to he was actually trying to help me out. And see, this just shows my trust that I have in my fans. I was on YouTube looking it up, you guys, dude. That's so bad. Clip it. Clip it. Clip that, bro. I threw out ideas, and then I got a trap. It was a trap, like a bear in the woods. That's what it was. All right, but Grayson, I'll talk to you later, huh? I come back for 1 minute. This is golden. You know what's funny, Noel Dog, is like I felt like I had some really salient points about big picture issues, about concussions, about waiver wire injury report. I really felt like a professional, and it pains me to see that when you do pop back in, it's the chat turning on me and playing a joke on me. I was on YouTube looking up this Lou Skunt thing. Like, I genuinely, because the thing is, I don't watch college football. So I'm a perfect prey because I don't know. It's like, oh, wait, he might go to the Chargers. I want to check out his tape. Lou Skunt. Come on, man. Okay. What is this? Dude, the YouTube link, you guys, I'm not going to touch it anymore. How am I supposed to touch a YouTube link after the prank, after the joke, after just the absolute mutiny in the chat? How do you expect me to then click on a link? That could be incriminating. It could actually be incriminating. I clicked it. There's actually a guy. It's YouTube, not Pornhub. Fine. Fine, you guys. Fine. Good Lord. Let me look it up.
We're no strangers to love.
Does this make you happy? Is this what you wanted? Is this what you guys wanted to see out of me tonight? And the funny thing is, it's kind of a lit song. It's kind of a lit song. Like, low key, dude. If you don't want to dance to, to that, like, it was a meme, but good Lord, I think I like it. I did get rickrolled. That is just enough of that. But for real, you guys, I appreciate you tuning in. It was fun. There was a lot of engagement. Y'all were hopping in the chat. It was fun. For real, y'all are dope. I'm actually down to play Call of Duty later, but yeah, that's week 5. Next week we're probably gonna do it on Tuesday again. The only potential conflict I see is, like, if I ever want to do an open mic down in downtown, those are also Tuesday nights. So if I by chance want to make that mission, then it would probably be on Monday night, as long as it's before Wednesday. My goal is to do it before Wednesday. So that's the plan. So next week it's probably going to be Tuesday, because I'm probably not going to go to the comedy night. But if I do, it'll be on Monday. All right? Great. Buenos noches, buenos suertes, adios, and hasta mañana. Actually, I'm not going to see any of you tomorrow, but I hope y'all have a great rest of your week.